Happy Friday, Mayhem Makers. Welcome back to another session of the Cider Sew Along. We are on block 6 today, which is this guy. I really like this block. It has a lot going on per se, definitely more than half square triangles this week. So nothing new, just they added a little more to it, gave it a little more zazz, which I love. So one of the things we're going to kind of go back to is making these quarter square triangles, okay? We did this in block 1, and I taught you my method because I don't like the whole cutting your squares on the diagonal and creating all that bias and trying to put it back together. That's just crazy train to me. So I'm going to teach you my method again, same as block 1. So like I said, nothing new. We're just doing a little different this time to make these guys. Now keep in mind, the one trick is going to be that when you're doing this, it will get you both blocks center, this square, but your pinwheels will be opposite. So if you're a little more OCD and need your both pinwheels for both blocks going the same direction, you're either going to need to double up or follow the book's directions so that you can place your triangles all the same way. I liked having that variety of the pinwheel going the opposite direction, so it didn't bother me. So we'll see if I can give you this comparison here. Do a little side by side. See if you can tell where the blue is going one way and it's going the other way in the other one. You're not going to be able to notice in the quilt. It is going to give you just a little bit different look, which I think is fun. So I left it alone. It didn't bother me. But just so you know, as you're making these, you're going to have to pay attention as you lay them out to make sure your blue triangles are going the correct directions and split them, because one's going to go one way and one's going to look like it's going the other. But other than that, it's really an easy block to do. Start out with your 5.5-inch squares of your background and this blue fabric. Okay, draw your line and sew your 1/4 inch on either side. Okay. We start with that basic, then you cut it apart and iron it, and then I'll show you the next step, because like I said, it's just a refresher. Make sure you have a nice hot iron. I always like steam when I iron. It's just how I've always been. And I always set the seam, so I always press my iron on it first, set that thread in there. It just tightens everything up nice and tight. And then you know me, I like to press my seams open. But if you like pressing one direction, press to the dark side, so press to the blue. I just like, it's just a little flatter. I don't have that lump or ridge in it when I press it open. So I press it open and then I press top down. And I love my wool mat. It retains that heat, so if you leave your block and let it just sit here as it cools, that seam just, everything sets nice and flat. Okay, so you're going to get a 1/2 square triangle like this guy, right? You can trim it down to 5 if you're super concerned about keeping everything nice and even. I'm not too worried. I'm going to move this camera because you don't really need to see me. You want to see what I got going on down here. Okay, and my computer. So you have your 1/2 square triangle, right? Now I have a diagonal line on this coral color fabric. I'm going to make sure the diagonal is dissecting the 1/2 square triangle, okay? So that's going to be key, because if you lay it on the seam, you're not going to get, you're just going to get different 1/2 square triangles, and that will not make you happy in the end. So make sure you're bisecting that diagonal. And I can just kind of line it up here. And that way, and you can kind of test it. When you flip it over this way, yep, you're going to have that 1/4 square triangle. And that way, okay? And then same thing, you just sew 1/4 inch on either side. We're going to take it here real quick. I'm going to show you a trick here. Let's see if we can do this. I don't know if you're going to be able to see real well. So when I'm having to just sew on both sides, instead of cutting, I have my needle up. I just give a little tug on my block and I pivot it and I put it right back down. And then I start sewing again. Did you notice I also didn't have to use my hands to lift my foot? Do I love my freehand system or what? Yes. Do that, and then I just cut it. So if you haven't been using your knee bar, this freehand system knee bar, and it makes my foot go up and down. Oh, no hands. Oh my God. I don't know why it thrills me so much, but it does. It gives me that extra freedom to keep doing everything else that I need to do to get everything done. All right, so then I'm cutting it on the line. We'll press it real quick. And it'll be what you need. Ooh. Benefit of acrylic nails, you can use it to open up your seams. Otherwise, you can always, I have like the OSD tool. There's all kinds of tools you can use to kind of help open that seam up for you. Okay, so I'm going to do a nice press, and I'm actually going to move you guys back down to the cutting mat. So I'm going to show you how to trim it up. All right, so here we go. Quarter square triangles. Yay. And it needs to be 4.5. If you have not invested in this 4.5 inch ruler yet, I'm still going to keep recommending it because it just makes these blocks easy. All right, so main diagonal ruler. Okay, just line those bad boys up. I then am going to make sure this tip of my ruler, I'm just going to keep sliding it until it lines up with this seam over here. Okay. And I finally changed my blade so I'd stop complaining about it in my videos. And look how nice, easy everything cuts. So I'm going to trim up 2 sides and then I just flip it. And then I line up the 2 sides I just trimmed with the edge of my ruler. And I just trim it all off. And it's nice and clean and ready to go. So you're going to do both sets of these guys so that as you lay them out, you can make sure everything's going the correct way. Because if you look at this guy and you lay him out, see how he is. This is on this side and this is on this side. So when you make them, separate them into piles. So these friends are in one block and these friends are in another block. And that's what's going to get you kind of that opposite look that nobody's really going to notice in the end. All right. And then the rest of the blocks are all of the half square triangles again. You remember the basics. You put your 2 blocks together, right sides together, draw your line, sew that 1/4 inch on either side. Take your 4.5 by 8.5, cut it, and then press them open and trim them. Okay. Always trim, always clean them up. I'm going to keep telling you every time, you want to make sure they're all the right size so your block comes out nice and pretty. Okay, so you're going to have 4 of these per block, 8 total, because these are going to be in your corners. And then you're going to make all the half square triangles of these ones and sew them together into what do I call them? Fake flying geese or faux flying geese. You're going to make these guys because what will happen is then you'll sew them on, right? We've been doing this routine every week, I swear. We're pretty close to it. Where you sew those guys on, and you're going to make sure you sew these guys on here. Okay, on the top and bottom. Just remember when you're laying these out that that blue is facing out of the block because you want it all in the corners. Here, we'll hold it up again so you can see. So remember laying it so these blue corners are sticking out. All right. But like I said, directions are great in this book. So it makes these super easy, super fun. I really, really love this quilt. It's making me happy. I really want to do another one if I had extra time. So hopefully that covered everything. Really, the only tools you need this week, friction pen, and I recommend the 4.5 square and the 4.5 by 8.5. This is all you need. You can do everything with this 4.5 by 8.5 if you don't have the 4.5 square. You can do the same trimming with this guy because it still has your 45 on it. It all works. So other than that, that's our block. We're getting towards the end. It's kind of exciting. I can't wait to put it all together. So hopefully you have a fabulous Friday. If you have questions, reach out, let me know. I'll gladly walk through anything again, help you out, help troubleshoot any issues you're having if they're just seams aren't lining up or they're just not quite coming out the way you think they should. Just let me know. Call me at the shop, message me through Facebook, email me, mindy@quiltingmayhem.com, all those things. Don't be stuck. Just let me know. I'll gladly help you. Okay, guys? Have a lovely, lovely Friday. The sun is out. I hope to go get some sun and some vitamin D today on my way to the shop. So take care and keep on stitching.